I'm Donnie Tuttle with Southwestern Consulting, where our purpose is to elevate sales, help people crush their goals, and have fun along the way. Welcome to the Sales Heroes Podcast, where we interview today's top professionals and practitioners from around the world to make you smarter, better, faster, and stronger. This is Sales Heroes. Sales Heroes listeners, I am here today with the godfather of commercial real estate. I'll introduce him here in a moment, but want to say thank you for hanging out with us, for deciding that you are going to be a professional by bettering yourself, by motivating yourself, and improving your skill set. So let's just jump right into it today. We have Beau Beery, again, godfather of all commercial real estate. If you are in North Florida, and you have done anything in the commercial world, you know the name of Beau Beery. He is an absolute powerhouse. But, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you probably wouldn't have known him or where he was at. Beau, introduce yourself to the Sales Heroes audience and fill in the blanks, man, of anything I missed out on there.
Thanks, Donnie. I guess my trajectory, if you will, was in the late 90s, is when I first got my taste in the real estate world. I was doing management and leasing for initially an apartment complex here in Gainesville over at Legacy at Fort Clark. We had built 444 units. I was working for the largest apartment developer in the country at that time, Legacy, called Trammell Crow. And a good buddy of mine had gotten me a job on there, and I was just kind of doing property management and leasing at sort of the most basic level. And it was there where, I saw basically 800 people who lived on this property paying for what at the time was about a $30 million asset. And I never saw the owners. Like, they never showed up. They were never there. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I've got to be a part of this industry. If I can have that many people paying for a $30 million asset that I own, like, I gotta see more about this. And I had really cool property managers and regional managers that would show me the books, and I was always fascinated by the numbers. And so Trammell Crow paid for a lot of education. I got my while I was there, I was like, well, shoot, let me get my real estate license. They're paying for it. That's great. And when I was getting my real estate license, during that course, everyone was talking about the graduate real estate program at UF. And that was the big buzzword. I mean, it was like one of the top 3 or 4 real estate programs in the country right here at University of Florida. And I looked at the criteria to get in. It was really hard to get in. And after, a year and a half of really stating my case with the administrators and trying to pass that damn GMAT test, I finally got approved, and I got into the UF real estate program. And phenomenal program that I can talk so much. I can do an hour just on that program. And when I graduated, during the program, I had met my wife, who was born and raised in Gainesville, and she was one of those few people in the world who was born, raised, went to college in the same place, and actually wanted to stay. And so while all my peers were going off and they got these $80,000, $90,000 a year jobs in all the big markets in real estate starting off, I knew I had to set my place in stone here in Gainesville. And so I interviewed her all over the place, and sort of the big dog in town was AMJ, and Mike Warren, who's an icon in the real estate business in town, and he brought me on in 2002, and developed my name, built my business, built a reputation with that company, and after about 9 or 10 years, the opportunity to team up with the Parrish family at Coldwell Banker and acquire that company with them came about, and I've been there since 2011 with my partners, Todd Rainsberger, Jay Parrish, and Susan Parrish, and it's been amazing.
Awesome. Tell us about who Beau is outside of the confines. You're not necessarily always in the confines of 4 walls, but outside of work, man. I mean, I hear wife, children. Like, what makes you tick?
Yeah, good question. So I've, probably in any sales business, you're running and gunning so hard, you kind of like to have a release, right? Things that you like to do. And so, I have two boys. They'll be 12 and 9 here in the next few weeks. And then my wife, I mean, that's kind of the rock part, right? And it is for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people will say, hey, it's my wife and kids, or it's my husband and kids. And they really are. I get tremendous joy, and I've been taught by enough people young in my age to really cherish these moments, because the foundation you put in them will make life so much richer later on. But aside from family, I really love doing triathlons. I'm a big-time swimmer. I love swimming. I love putting together relay teams to do triathlons, where I do the swim, somebody else does the bike, somebody else does the run. I love working in my yard. I love just putting my headphones on and sweating to death and, sort of making change. It's really cool to be able to control things, because in the real estate industry, you can't ever control your clients, right? And the last thing I love, man, is I really love dancing. Like, I love music. I love old school hip hop, old school, sort of R&B and funk, like James Brown and all those guys. And I love dancing, that kind of stuff. That's a lot of fun. So those are kind of my releases. Those are my things I like to do outside the industry.
Phenomenal. Love it. Hey, guys, listen, if you are in the sales world, and if you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure you are, you need to have something out there that is a pressure relief for you, some place that brings you back, to your equilibrium spot. And, some people are jumping out of airplanes. Beau is dancing to James Brown. Hey! Love it. Come on, man.
Trying to get my feet as fast as he is.
So tell me, man, that's great stuff about your secret identity. I would love to hear one thing. You're not the only commercial property solution that's out there. If you're in front of someone that absolutely needs your services, and you know that you're the best, give me your value proposition. Why Beau Beery? Why your group?
Yeah. So, I mean, the only result that I think a customer cares about in my business, and probably in a lot of industries, is what we can sell their property for, right? How much and how fast. And the market says we're the best. That's indisputable. Since day one, no one has sold more real estate locally. We've set records every single year. Every single year of my career, this is a complete truth, I've sold more real estate than the previous year. And lastly, I mean, we're among the top 50 producers in the entire world for Coldwell Banker Commercial, which that company alone has the largest geographic footprint of any brokerage in the world. And I work hard at my craft, Donnie. My coach, my real estate coach, says I'm a trained killer, right? Like, it's impossible for a competitor to outwork me. Now, there's a lot of guys who are smarter than me. There's a lot of folks, sort of in the world, of course, who sell more real estate than me. But you can't outwork me without abusing your help. Like, I love this business, and I'm passionate about it. And when you love something, like, you just do it all the time. It's a part of your DNA. It's what you do. You can reach me 24/7. I mean, you can, Donnie, if you wanted to call me tonight at 3 a.m. and talk about commercial real estate, I will answer that phone call, and I will answer it as though you didn't know I was leaving. Like, I'm going to be talking just like this, because I just love the business.
Love that. And, it's interesting, guys. If you're out there and you're selling something that you don't have a passion for, you owe it to yourself to find something that you are passionate for, because you know what? To be the best, and this is my takeaway from that, Beau, to be the best actually takes a dedication that really that goes outside the bounds sane, normal, right? And so to be the best, you actually have to have a passion and a love for what you're doing, and that's what I'm picking up from what you're saying right there, man.
Yeah, because I mean, listen, there's a lot of people who are listening right now who are in an industry that they hate being in. They could be phenomenal at sales. They could be number one in sales right now. But I'm telling you, it ain't going to last long term if you don't really love what you do, because you just can't live that miserable of a life for that long, even when you're good, because the guys who are good are just going to continue on, and the customer notices it, and you're going to start to have a decrease, and pretty sure you just hit the wall, but you got to really enjoy doing what you do, man.
Okay, I want to take that a little bit further, man. Like, what do you think? There's so many people out there that would talk about the grind and, that life is about being a Spartan, right? Where you basically deny yourself pleasure and you just work. I don't think that that's what you're saying in what you're going after. You're saying find what you love to do, and it's less work, or there's more reason for you to gain excellence in that. Like, dig into that for me. Help me to. What do you believe about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, what I'm not saying is quit what you're doing, okay, and you stop providing for your family and you go in the poorhouse because you're in pursuit of something that you are trying to find that you love, right? I mean, keep doing what you're doing, but keep your mind open to doing the things that you actually love, because in the long run, you will excel tremendously at it. I mean, it just is. Now, listen, that also doesn't mean, it does mean find an industry in which you can create the lifestyle that you want while doing what you love. In other words, there's, if your passion, if you're in, the sales of a widget, but your passion is to be a musician, it's such a small percentage of people in the world who will ever make a grand living as a musician. So what I'm saying is, don't leave what you're doing to pursue something that's so almost impossible to accomplish, okay? Be realistic in what you choose to become passionate at and make your living at, because that's important. I mean, I know we all know plenty of people who, some would commend them on not wasting, but spending their entire life trying to become passionate at something that they're just not good at, right? I mean, they're trying to make something out of something that doesn't exist.
Good stuff, man. This is good stuff, guys. That's sage advice from Beau Beery. Definitely, let's pay attention to that. Beau, enough about the secret identity, man. I feel like we have a little bit about who you are as a sales hero, a little bit about your origin. Tell us about your superpower, man. What strengths do you have? I already hear that hard work, that I will outwork you. What other strengths would you say? What makes you a superhero, man?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got a few. In my business, my goal is always to be sort of the trusted source, okay, in commercial real estate. And in order to do that, and in the industry, okay, if you're selling, mothballs, whatever it is, I really dive into data. Like, I'm a big data guy, right? So I try. One of my strengths is I am always number crunching the market in every which way you possibly can, and then putting that data and that information into a way in which people can understand it, whether it be very simple bar charts or pie charts, or just, quick one page, you can read it in 10-second information, and consistently getting that out to the market through social media, through emails, through mailings, through phone calls, whatever it is. And I'm doing it for free as much as I can, because then I become the trusted source, right? The other thing I really am good at, okay, which is good in my industry, is financials. I know how to read balance statements like the back of my hand, balance sheets, income statements. I know how to create pro formas. I am passionate about Excel spreadsheets. Like my wife and my friends who know me very well make fun of me because I have a spreadsheet for everything. I have a spreadsheet for what I eat, for how I work out, for when my next appointment is. I mean, everything is in a spreadsheet. I just enjoy that part of it. The other strength I have that I think people in sales should have is my ability to convey perspective to the customer. And what I mean by that is, when someone's trying to, let's say for instance, someone's trying to sell, a $1 million property that's costing them $7,000 a month to have, and we get an offer in, and they've been trying to get an offer for months and months and months, and an offer comes in that's within, say, 50 or 60 grand, and if my seller is, sort of bowing his chest and trying to act tough, and he's been begging God, for this offer to come in, and he's getting ready to blow this deal up over 50 or 60 grand. My job, our job as salespeople, is to convey perspective, right? And so I'm going to have a conversation with him about, hey, Mr. Seller, you've been dying for this offer. We've got it on here. It costs you $7,000 a month to hold this. What you're telling me is that by giving up this, by the way, you've already been on the market for a year and a half, by giving up this deal, it's only going to take you 4 or 5 months before you've eaten up carrying costs again, before another offer comes in. And who knows if that next offer will be as high as this one, number one, and number two, who knows what they may find during inspections that cost you another 40 grand. So, conveying perspective is so huge when you're in sales. You just need to turn things around and make sure that the buyer or seller are seeing all sides of this deal. And the other thing is, the last couple of that, I love marketing. I mean, that's a thing I really enjoy doing. And so, listen, in real estate, a monkey can walk through someone in a building, right? Like anybody can put a key in a hole, turn it, walk someone through a building. Right. Like that's simple stuff, right? The key is getting the phone to ring. And I really enjoy testing different marketing techniques, whether it be through social media or what you say or the mailings or, there's all different ways now in today. I love playing with different marketing stuff. And I think that my last strength is I am absolutely relentless in my follow-up and my follow-through. Now, that doesn't mean, Donnie, that I'm one of those colossal pricks who call people over and over and over and over again and he becomes that guy. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I have a CRM, a contact management database that runs my whole life. So every conversation I have with a customer, I'm able to type in and record that conversation. I can schedule when I'm going to be calling them next. It tells me everything that they own. I mean, everything is in this CRM. And so my follow-up and my follow-throughs are done in a manner in which are appropriate and aren't too aggressive and are respected, by the prospect in which I'm contacted. Never have I had someone say, don't call me again, I don't like your message and you're too aggressive. Like, that's not how I do it. But I do it over the course of years if it takes, If I really want to help out someone sell or buy a property, I'm not calling them every week. I mean, oftentimes I forward stuff 3, 4, 6 months from now, and I have a conversation with them. I've used the data from previous conversations in order to have the next conversation. And so I give people space, but I never give up, right?
Love that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of power involved in that, and some of my takeaways was that whole thing where you dive into data and you actually translate that. You put it into terms that a regular person can understand. And one of my friends, author and sales researcher, Tim Reister, said that our value actually to the people that we talk to isn't that we know all the facts about our product as salespeople. It's actually that we can help people look at all the facts that are out there. We're inundated with facts, right? And be able to make value of saying, hey, pay attention to this. This is what's important. And I love that you're doing that. You're bringing people, like that whole perspective thing that you're going through. I think in some of my listeners, you guys are afraid. You're afraid that if you bring perspective that someone's going to walk away from you. And I'm going to tell you that that's actually what makes them respect you. And if you are not willing to get uncomfortable, you're not really serving the other person. You're just serving yourself. And that sometimes that is a bit uncomfortable, right? And finally, the whole marketing gig. The one thing, I'm not a huge fan of Grant Cardone, but that one line that he says that sticks in my mind, that obscurity is the number one problem of every business and every salesperson. We have to do whatever we can to overcome that. So relentless follow-up, dude. There's so much that's there to take away. Give me, what would you say on some of our people are new to we'll just call it the long game. And you mentioned that sometimes you're willing to focus on that long game, even if it takes years to gain in someone's trust and help them. Like, give us some strategy or some insight on how you work the long game.
I am a huge believer in a phenomenal contact management database. Okay, and let me dive into this a little bit. So,
what do you use for your CRM?
So I have, the one I use is called RealNext, which is it's a real estate, it's commercial real estate software, and in my opinion, the number one in the world right now. And in this software, like I said, I'm able to, type in histories that every time I have a conversation with someone, I take notes. I'm able to schedule events. I'm able to put in notes about what they like to buy. I put in notes about what they own, what they have to sell. I put in notes about who their wives are, who their kids are, what their first kiss was, what they eat for lunch, what they're going to have for breakfast tomorrow. Everything I ever learn, gain, talk about, research, find out about this person goes into my CRM. And what I have found, Donnie, is one of the big differences between a great salesperson and a sick salesperson. Like one who is, listen, if in your industry there are, the great guys make $300,000 a year, and then you got the guys who you just don't even compare yourself to because they make, $10, $15 million a year. Like, that's the guy I'm talking about, the $10, $15 million a year guy. The difference between those two guys is the amount of information and notes they take with every customer, okay? So when I'm scheduling, there's so many calls coming in the sales industry. Like, I'm getting calls off my sign, I'm getting emails, it's coming from all directions at all times. That's why I have a team to handle all these calls. And we all make notes about these people. See, the people who make $250,000 a year, who are great in any industry, they think they can hold all that stuff in their head. I know guys in real estate who make a crap load of money and do very well, and they just keep it in their head. But the ones who are making lots of money, the ones who I call sick, those are the guys who register every customer in their CRM system, and they're taking notes, and they're scheduling a follow-up every time. Even if they think they're just a worthless customer or will never do business, like, I'm scheduling events into the future all the time. So every morning when I walk in my office and I pull up my REA on what my to-do list is, there is dozens of calls and things I can do to grow my business. I'm telling you right now, Donnie, I can go into my REA and I can tell you what I'm doing on February 16th, 2022. I can do that right now. That's happening. So I'm always scheduling events based on the conversations I've had. And that's the long game, man. Like you're just,
love it.
You can do that. The people who don't have the CRM system at all, period, like, I'm going to destroy you all day long. I'm going to kill you in real estate. The people who have the CRM who aren't using it, I'm going to kill you. The people who have the CRM and who aren't using it every single conversation, that's the big difference, man. It's the long game, always putting in the right notes and scheduling events for everyone, okay? Every time a call comes in and you're selling whatever it is, register those people in there, put their names and email addresses and all that stuff in there, take notes about the conversation you had, if the guy just was a total prick and sounded like he's never going to buy whatever you got, register him in there, schedule to call him up in a year. Okay, if he was a total prick, schedule a year out. Maybe he comes to God between now and then. You call him up, and he's like, "Oh man, I can't believe it. Yeah, I remember you. I feel so terrible about the way we had a conversation like that." It's at least a chance. But if you just negate the entire conversation, the customer, like, it ain't ever going to happen.
Guys, if this sales sickness, I don't want to cure for it. I want I want that sales sickness. And like I wrote down in big bold letters as you were talking and saying that, I wrote, pay attention. Pay attention. And obviously, like, there's that first word is pay, right? So there's a cost to it, but there's also a reward. And man, like, you being able to do something, and you know what you're doing on February 16th, 2022. Brother, you got me actually thinking I need to go back to the drawing board. So I'm feeling I've got some work to do. I love it, man. This is good stuff. So take us now, man. I love bringing my people here because you were not always this superstar that you are now. But I love to hear the battles. Every hero goes through battles, and so we have. I want to take us to a low, maybe an all-time low point in your career, and take us not a general time, but a specific day where you remember a taste or a sound, or you were at a specific place. Take us to that low point in your career, and then bring us back out. Don't leave us on the bottom of the pit. Bring us back out. Take us to an epic victory. Do you have a couple of stories you could share with us, though?
Yeah, it's funny. I have stories that pop immediately in my head for low and high, right? On the low side, I mean, it would be very early in my career. I mean, when I graduated from that real estate program at UF, I had this big ego and big chest. I'd been working for Tremel Crowe, one of the biggest apartment developers in the country. I just got this master's degree. Like, I'm feeling super smart. And, I kind of wanted to, even though my wife was born and raised in Gainesville, we thought, hey, maybe we should give another place a try. And so we had immediately upon graduating the program, we went to St. Augustine, and we stayed at a place there, and I wanted to try brokerage at that time, and so I started with a national brokerage there, and man, for 6 months, I worked hard. I did all the same things that I did to build my business I did now. I just didn't give it enough time, and I didn't know not to get. I just didn't know. So I'm making phone calls all the time. I'm doing mailings. I'm doing everything you're supposed to do, and I'm not making any money. And my wife's, driving, almost an hour to Jacksonville to a job, and, she's not making much money because, we're still young. And so we're just pounding and pounding and pounding. And of course, my wife is, miserable because she's missing, her whole family's in Gainesville. I'm missing Gainesville. And we're just like, man, like, let's just, I've been here 6 months. I haven't made a dime. This is not working. So we come back to Gainesville, and, I told you I interviewed all over the place with the big dogs in Gainesville. I get, I go to AMJ, I convince Mr. Warren, hey, give me a chance, man. Like, I've got a fire in my belly, and Mr. Warren, like, created a position for me. He saw something in me, and he needed, he didn't have a need at the time, but he thought, well, he was a smart kid, let's give him a chance. Let's have him start leasing up some of my properties. And I get hired on there, and Mr. Warren is a really smart, really successful guy, but he's also very direct and very to the point, which is what I love about him. And so within, the first 30, 60, and by the way, he gives my wife a job, he gives me a job. We move back from St. Augustine to Gainesville. We're super happy. We get on there. And dude, in like the first 30 or 60 days, I joke with Mr. Warren about this, but in the first 30, 60 days, somewhere in there, I do something that wasn't right, and he says to me, he says, strike one, and he walks off. And I'm like, what? Like, holy, like I've never had anybody say that to me. Like, holy cow, you know, like I just moved my wife from St. Augustine. I'm already struggling. I come back here and he said, strike one to me. And so like a week or two later, the receptionist calls me up and says, hey, can you just, are you walking in the back of the office? Yeah, I'm walking back there. He says, well, if you can have Mr. Warren sign this, bring this back to me. I'm like, all right, no problem. So I walk in there and, I said, hey, Sue says, if you can sign this. And he says, well, what is it? I said, I don't know. I said, she said to hand it to you. And he looks up at me and he says, strike two. And I'm like, what? I'm like, holy. He's like, don't ever give me anything to sign and not know what it is. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, this guy's getting strike two. Like, I'm almost in tears. Like, I come home to my wife. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. Like, what was going on? And I put my head down and I'm just grinding, man. I'm working. I'm making calls. Making calls. And I never got a strike three, and I started earning his trust and earning his confidence in me. But dude, that was a low point for me because I had always felt like I was pretty good at, everything I did because I worked hard at it, and I'm working hard at it, and like, it's just not happening. So that was a low point.
Man,
low point.
Beau, I love that. And by the way, like, I'm thinking like baseball analogies, like for you salespeople out there, strike one, strike two. Hey, it's okay to get a strike one and a strike two. Obviously, I'm okay if you get a strike three as long as you don't go down looking. Always go out swinging, but that's what you said you're doing, man. You're working your butt off to make sure you got it right, and no strike three. So bring us to a high spot, man.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of high spots, but kind of one that was very recent, like literally in the last couple months, was a fun story. We were doing leasing for a large office tower here in Gainesville, and the owner at that time was basically a bank intermediary. So it was owned by a bank. They use an intermediary to basically take care of the building while they get it fixed up in order to sell to an actual private party. So it's like basically a bank foreclosure, the bank owns it. That intermediary then hires local brokerage in order to keep the building fully leased up. So we were doing the leasing in that capacity for that intermediary. And they then allowed us, once we got the building filled up and it was looking good and all the physical ailments were cured, they allowed us to, they gave us the listing to sell the building. And so we went under contract. Long story short, that contract fell through. That intermediary was let go, and they basically sold it to another huge conglomerate investment company. It's very hard to explain. I won't give it to you, but basically a different owner now was in possession, and they kept us on to do the leasing as we were doing a good job leasing, but they wouldn't give us the ability to sell. This huge conglomerate had a relationship, basically they were a sister company to another national brokerage competitor to me. So they were naturally, of course, going to sell this through their company next year, meaning 2017. And I had this buyer, I had this guy who really wanted to buy this building. It was a multi-million-dollar building in downtown Gainesville. And I had this buyer, and I was just like, talking to this intermediary company. I was like, just give me one chance. I said, let me just bring you an offer. I'm like, instead of you going through the whole, marketing scheme of creating a marketing package and doing analytics and going out to the market and receiving all these offers and having to do multiple walkthroughs and all this crap, I said, listen, if I bring you the right price the first time off the market and we do a deal and you have to avoid all that crap, I'm like, just give me a chance. And so, it was no, and I just stuck with it. And finally he said to me, you've got one chance. You can make one phone call. That's it. And I said, great. And so I went to my one guy who I know is a closer, who is just a total baller in the industry, submitted the offer. We were pretty close, negotiated it, went to contract. We're talking $500,000 deposit, hard day one. Hard means non-refundable. So like day one on a millions and millions of dollar office building, this is a major baller move, dude. $500,000, non-refundable at the contract signing. That means, like, he hasn't done full inspections yet. He has a pretty good idea of the building. I told him as much as I possibly could because obviously if there's any withholding of any information in that capacity, I will be hung, okay, right? I mean, like, people kill people over millions of dollars, okay? And so, I mean, people kill people over that. And so I told him everything I could. And anyway, so the guy moved forward. We closed on the deal. He's doing a tremendous remodel on it. He's doing very well at the investment. It's going to be a tremendous income producer for him for decades. And I mean, what a story. What a story. Like, great story. Great fee we earned. The seller was totally impressed with us. The buyer's a lifetime customer of ours now, and just worked out really well.
Oh, love it. So tell me, how did you get the guy from no? Do you remember what made him finally say yes? Was it just the Chinese water drop torture of your relentlessness, or what was it?
Perspective, man. Perspective. Like, you know, it's easy for people to say no. Like, it's easy for him to say, nah, you know, we already have a relationship with this national brokerage. Like, I'm not the one, you know, I'm talking like I'm the owner. I'm not the one having to put together marketing packages. I'm not the one that has to go out there and meet with the buyers. I'm not the one that has to do the marketing. I'm not the one that has to be out there and do all the inspections. Like, to him, it's not his work. So it's just easy to say no. And my point was, listen, I'm going to do it for a little bit of a discount on the brokerage fee because I don't have the listing. I'm just bringing you a buyer. And while you don't have to do all that stuff that the actual other broker is, you are still going to have to make decisions on, you know, the offers that come in and doing the research on them, and you're going to have to take it to your board of directors and choose it. And so I walked through the process and gave it on what I know he had to go through because I work with these kind of companies all the time. I gave him perspective on you are going to do a significant amount of work more by going out to the market as opposed to just giving me this one chance. Like, and this one chance, Mr. Seller, is only going to cost you about 10 minutes. I'm going to bring you the friggin' offer, and you're going to look at it in 10 minutes, and you're going to tell me whether or not we're going to move forward. It's not costing you a bunch of time. So I mean, there's a lot more to it, but basically I gave perspective. I tried to make his life simple. I tried to give him a picture of what his life is going to look like over the next 3 or 4 months if he doesn't just give me this one chance, right? It's kind of like buying a lottery ticket, okay? I mean, if it's $1, okay, or, you know, you can continue to do what you're doing.
Love it. So you opened up the true cost because there's a cost for a yes and for a no. And guys and gals out there, Beau hit it on the head when he said it's easy for people to say no. And, you know, honestly, no is a defensive move. And most of us, you know, are playing defense. That's one of the reasons why one of my, you know, favorite questions on the way to close is there any reason why we shouldn't do this? So to say no means yes. So, you know, it's just that it plays with that mentality. No is easy for people to say. So, dude, phenomenal story. Love that. Great victory. You know, okay. So you've been through your battles, had your ups, you had your downs. You are truly a hero. You're come back now, and you are talking to the young Beaus out there, the young Donnies, and this is the part where you give advice to people. And you know, let's start off like with what do you see? It could be real estate sales, it could be any type of sales, it could be people who are knocking on your doors. What do you see in sales? We won't call them professionals, salespeople, that it just makes you upset. You're thinking they're doing it wrong. Like, what do you see that's like that?
Dude, it comes to mind immediately. The one pet peeve I really hate is when salespeople tell customers what they want to hear instead of the truth, right? So let me give you an example. I battle this all the time where I'm the second or third broker that a customer hires, and because the first couple guys didn't get it done. But the problem is the first couple of guys And it could have been appraisers. It could have been appraisers that told this customer what their property was worth. That was then backed by the first and second broker who said that's what it was worth. And anyone all of us in the industry, for the most part, knows what a product is worth, knows what a property is worth. And if you continue to feed the mind of the customer what he wants to hear, knowing you know it ain't right, it just makes it hard all the way down the road. And so I really try to convey in the very beginning what I think it's worth. Now, sometimes, let's say if a guy wants $3 million for it, and I know it's only worth 2.2, what I will do is I will still take the listing, but I want him to know up front that this is what I think it will trade at. Mr. Seller, I'm fine to go to market at $3 million. I will work my tail off to get you $3 million, but the market says it's worth 2.2. Okay? And I'll take the listing. And the reason I take the listing is because sometimes it takes time for the customer to learn what it's worth, right? And so I keep the customer involved in the marketing process and in the offers that come in and sort of the conversations that happen between me and buyers during that process, so that they know as much as I do when these offers come in. And when the offers come in 2-1 and 2-3 and 2-2, I've kept them in on all these conversations with these buyers. And so then the customer sees, okay, this isn't just some greedy broker who wants to just have a quick sale and earn a commission to be done. Like, this is what the market's saying. But I think it's imperative that you are upfront and tell people what things are worth, or tell people the truth about a product, but instead of just telling them what they want to hear, because you're just setting yourself up for a failure again. And then what's going to happen is that customer is going to go and talk to 5 or 6 other people about how much you sucked, right? Because you never gave him perspective. You told him a lie. You told him what you wanted to hear, and he's going to continue going on. And this goes on too long, he's going to lose the property. He's going to go bankrupt. He's not going to be able to afford it. Only can afford so many carrying costs for most people.
So guys, it is not about just telling who can tell the best story. We get paid to tell the right story and to do that best. So love that. Tell me, like if you were to sum it up in just 1 to 2 sentences, what would you say is the secret to sales?
So I'm sorry, I'm never a 2-sentence guy, but because I like to get perspective, right? Like, one of my strengths is to get perspective. There's a gentleman named Andy Andrews, who is a sort of a world-renowned author, speaker, coach, advisor, and I read a lot of his stuff, and he's kind of like my life coach. I like to call him my life coach, even though I read all of his books and so forth, and I have a real estate coach. Andy Andrews teaches a principle that I've always tried to practice, which is I try to operate at a level at which my competitors doesn't even know there's a competition going on. And what I mean by that is I try to produce customer service to people in a way that you can't touch. That's my secret. So let me give you an example. I try to get to know customers at a level that really affects them at the core, at their heart. Like, for some customers, it's their kids. For some customers, it's boating. For some customers, it's their grandmother. Everyone has this thing that is super important to them, right? Like, for me, for most people, it's their kids, right? The kids are always usually there or something like that, right? And so I really try to get to know what really makes people tick, and I focus on that. As an example, one of my secrets is one of my favorite customers. One of his kids is his favorite thing in the whole world, and We did a transaction for them. You know, he paid us a very good fee. But I know every conversation I had with him, he talked about his kid. Like that was like, I know that was his thing, right? And so they were from Boston. We had purchased, you know, a signed autographed jersey for the National Hockey League team that they have there. We bought a jersey for the kid that was his size, little 3-year-old. We got a signed hockey puck. We got the kid like one of those fat head things that you stick to your wall that takes up a whole wall. Mm-hmm. We bought like several $100s worth in like the best restaurants you can possibly imagine within a couple miles of where the guy lives in Boston. We just did a bunch of research, you know, because he talked about food a lot too. Like, so when that package showed up out of nowhere a couple weeks after closing, let me ask you, Donnie, do you think any competitor in the world could ever take that guy from me? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, friend.
I hit the core. I hit the core.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my I mean, that's not a secret, okay, but that's what I try to do is I try to appeal to people at what makes them tick because that's how I want to be treated. Like, you know, people talk to me about swimming or about kids or, you know, dancing or yards or whatever, like that's what makes me tick, dude. And whether or not they're into it or not, for them to think of me or to think of something in one of those categories, like I have a connection with them.
Dude, that is phenomenal. And guys, gals, listen, with what we have out there, first off, you should be having conversations that have actual meaning because we're serving people, not just positions. And the more we know about someone, the more we can actually customize and show that we care about the person. And man, that's a phenomenal story, Beau. That's outstanding. Wow, that's all I can say about that. Take me to a place. I know that you said you have a couple of coaches. I'd love to hear your perspective on like what would you advise. Like what has coaching done for your life, and what's your advice to others about that as a need in theirs?
Man, let me tell you, I've got some good perspective on that, right? So, I'm 41 years old now, and you know, I started in the business, you know, sort of my early 20s, right? And all the way up until really just 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, in my industry, as in any industry, okay, you get emails and calls from coaches. You know, people, you know, sign up for this seminar, come to this, come to that. And, you know, I had always had this mentality that why would I pay some dude who doesn't make anywhere near as much money as me to coach me? Like, if he was any good, he would be selling real estate. He wouldn't be a coach. Like, that was my stupid, cocky thought. And, you know, and I had a bunch of other reasons. I don't have the time. You know, I'm not going to pay that much, all this and that. And it's just, you know, stuff that you just come up with because it's easy to say no, right? Like, that's always it. So I started being more open to it. And it's too long of a story to go into why, but I started getting the reasons why this may work. But one of the big things I thought to myself, one of the things that really kind of put me over the hump was, you know, there are overweight, unhealthy people who coach the top NBA teams in the world, right? Like people who probably have never played basketball, people who don't look like they should be training and coaching NBA and NFL players, but they do. So that sort of dispelled one of my main issues with hiring a coach. And also, you know, these people have systems, okay? You don't have to be a superstar broker who makes millions of dollars in order to coach someone. You're following a system that produced people who produced at a very, very high level. And so my real estate coach, okay, they have, when you look at, the good thing they do is they keep track of the statistics of their customers. And their customers, the particular group I'm a part of, their average income of the customer is almost 6 times more than a real estate practitioner who doesn't have a coach. And in my guess, in many industries, selling widgets or what have you, you will see that those who are coached are making far more than those who are not. And here's the thing. for a lot of people, Donnie, it's about the cost, right? I mean, I pay a lot of money to my coaches. But here's what helps me with that. A coaching company cannot survive any amount of time in their business if they didn't produce winners consistently, right? So in my mind, I was making the decision to hire a coach. I could not fathom in my mind that a company like this had been around this long and coached this many people and had that kind of result if I couldn't at least make back what I paid in for a year, okay? So let's say in the sale of widgets, the cost for this coach was $10,000 a year. And the average income, of course, is way in excess of that. How can a person justify in their mind not to hire someone, a coaching company who's been around for years and years and years and it's produced winners, if they weren't making their customers at least that back in extra sales? Like, you can't justify that in your head, okay? I mean, you can come up with all the excuses you want about how you don't have the time in your life, you don't have the money. It doesn't make sense, though, when you look at it that way. Those people would not exist. And so I made that decision. I just leaped forward, and I put my whole heart out into it instead of going into the coaching and looking for reasons why I was right all these years and trying to spell everything they did and being negative off the bat. I didn't do that. I went in there because now I'm committed. Now my money's in the pot. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to do what they say. These guys are coaching the best people in the industry, in the best companies across the world, not just the United States. And these coaches exist in every business you can think of, selling widgets, delivering service, whatever the hell the sales is that you do now. There are coaches that exist and have existed for many, many years and have produced the top guys in the world. And that's those top guys' secrets, okay? So I have a coach that's specifically in real estate, and then I have a life coach, and my life coach gives me 30,000 feet perspective, right? Like, they keep me balanced in life. They sort of give me a balance that translates into real estate. My real estate guy kind of gives me the nuts and bolts in my industry. I will never not have a coach. Never.
Just one question for you, man. Does Beau Beery have a dance coach?
I have, and am starting back up. Like, I have hired.
Wow.
I know it's so weird because I'm a 41-year-old white dude who is really into a traditionally sort of urban hip hop, kind of old school type of scene. But I just enjoy it. It's something that something I've always enjoyed. And yes, I've hired coaches to come in, and we go in the garage and we dance it out. And I'm getting ready to start some new classes next week. Actually, it's kind of cool. It's a
Love
fun
it. That's awesome. My perspective on the coach is you got to get one. You don't know what you're missing. I believe everyone in life deserves a good coach. I believe everyone needs a good coach. And but I always, like, for me, definitely err on the side of, like, I want a practitioner, someone who's actually doing what they're having you to do, or they've done what they're having you to do, preferably still doing so. But it is so powerful. And I'm not just saying that because I am one, but I also employ a couple of coaches myself. So it's money. I'll never not spend money on a coach. So man, we're wrapping up on the tail end here. I just want to know a couple of things. Any book recommendations?
I mean, not other than the regular stuff. I mean, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a big one. Most of my readings, Donnie, won't apply, to this conversation because it's all real estate. I'm always reading real estate related books on anywhere from customer service to all the way down to, the markets and down markets and up markets, and just a bunch of nerd financial books.
But you're always reading. Always reading, right?
Yeah. I'm always book on taping. I rarely actually read a book. I listen to books on tape whether it be in the yard or in the car or whatever. I try to limit, just sort of regular radio and TV time and squeeze some of those in.
Love it.
I don't have the patience to sit there and read.
What's been your favorite Audible book, real estate or non-real estate?
Probably How to Win Friends and Influence People, man. I mean, it's just an easy classic, and you've got to read that book several times throughout your life because you can never absorb everything the book is saying and teaching in one go round, and your life as you get older, your perspective changes, and when you read again, you hear it differently, and it's a really cool book.
Love it. Awesome. Good stuff, man. One final thing I'll ask you, and this is just on the advice side. What would you how do you make sure that you're not dwelling on negative self-talk and doubt and just the things that sometimes live inside of you and say you can't?
It's probably kind of a strange answer, but I always focus on the fact that I'm alive and I'm healthy and my family's healthy. I know it's kind of a strange answer, but I mean, anytime a deal's going south, something happens wrong, whether it be in sales or in life, whatever it is, it's always so easy to fall back on being thankful for being alive. And to me, if you're alive, God's plan for you hasn't been achieved yet. Like what He has in store for you, you're still around because you're still in pursuit of that. You're still working on a goal that is in His plan, and it's reassuring to me. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like this is just one stumbling block in my path to accomplish whatever it is I'm supposed to be accomplishing in the overall picture. And so I focus on my health and a lot of my health and just the fact that I'm still here. This is part of the journey, dude.
Man, I love that. I wrote down one word: perspective. Right? It's almost that same thing you were saying before. It's like, come on, man, let's get real. You've got a lot to be thankful for. One of my dear friends named Steve Reiner, and he says, I might be off task, but I'm always on purpose. And you just kind of reminded me of that right there. Dude, it has been so much fun hanging out with you today. We're going to wrap up here, and if you could, man, just give us a final shot of if there's anything else out there that you have to encourage or to say to people, and let us know how we can get in touch with Beau Beery, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, no, I appreciate. Obviously, thank you for the time. It's just, we've been scheduling it out, and I appreciate we were able to finally get this together. But sales is it shouldn't be hard. I mean, the things that you do to become successful in this business should be easy to perform. The problem is that most people don't. Most people don't do the basic things of answering phone calls, returning emails, scheduling out events. If you just do the basic things, you're going to be successful. If you go a step further and get guidance and coaching, that's where you just have a huge trajectory. And so, I encourage people. I mean, I always visit a lot of different websites from different industries. I love to learn how other people sell other widgets, so I encourage people to do that. You can always I always bring amazing ideas from other industries, from the top people in those industries into my own. So I encourage that. How you get a hold of me? I mean, probably the easiest thing is our website is beautodd.com. It's BEAUTODD.com, and there we are.
Boom, Beau, you have delivered fireworks for us today, and I'll absolutely put up your information in the show notes to the show. And listeners, I mean, take heed to what Beau is saying, man, keep that perspective, of being thankful that you're still in the middle of seeking out and fulfilling God's purpose for you. Become that sick salesperson, right? Take it up a notch and let's do some CRM work. Pay attention to what people are telling you, but also don't be afraid to give them the truth. Perspective. Listen, guys, let's go ahead and go out there, suit up, put on those boots and capes and wear your underwear on the outside, and let's be some sales heroes. Go get them, guys.